A black homeless boy ran through traffic to save a billionaire's pregnant wife, while everyone else ignored her. But when the billionaire offered him anything, the boy didn't ask for money. What he asked for made a grown man cried out. If this story moved something inside you, don't just watch, subscribe. We bring you real stories that heal hearts, restore hope, and remind us what humanity truly looks like. The city pulsed with movement, noise, and indifference, where time moved faster than faces could be remembered, and not a soul paused long enough to notice the woman on the ground. Claire Whitmore, 7.5 months pregnant, was supposed to walk just 2 blocks for fresh air, just 2 blocks of freedom from the quiet suffocation of her driver's routine, just 2 blocks to clear her mind from the pressure of being the wife of a billionaire. But halfway into the walk, a wave of dizziness hit her like a punch, her breath shortened, her legs buckled, and before she could cry out, she was sitting on the cold concrete, her back against a trash bin, her arm wrapped around her belly. Her dress, soft gray knit and carefully chosen for comfort, was now smudged with dirt. Her hair clung to her face, and her knees trembled as pain surged beneath her ribs. She tried calling out, lifting a hand, whispering for help, but everyone passed, too busy, too distracted, too numb. A businessman glanced, then looked away. A woman in heels frowned and turned her face. No one saw her. No one heard her. No one cared. Her eyes filled with panic, her heart pounding as her hand clutched her stomach. "Please," she gasped, "someone?" That's when she felt it, a small hand. She looked down and blinked. A boy stood before her, no older than 6, barefoot, skin darkened by the sun and soot, his small jacket full of holes, his pants dragging, knees scraped and bleeding, and bits of ash caught in his wild, curly hair. His face was dirty but his eyes were clear. "You okay, lady?" he asked softly. Claire could hardly speak. "I think, contractions," she whispered. The boy nodded once. "You need a doctor?" She nodded, breath caught between pain and fear. He squeezed her hand. "Don't move. I'll come back." And just like that he ran. Into traffic, across horns and yells, through crowds that ignored him, shouting, pleading, begging someone to follow him. And finally a woman stopped. And when the ambulance arrived minutes later, Claire gripped the boy's hand before they loaded her. "You saved us," she whispered. He only looked down and mumbled, "You talked to me like I wasn't trash." As the ambulance doors slammed shut and sped off toward St. Mercy Medical Center, the little boy stood at the curb, breathing heavily, barefoot toes curling against the concrete. No one clapped for him. No one asked his name. The woman in the purple coat who had helped call the ambulance had already returned to her day, shaking her head in disbelief at what she almost ignored. The boy stayed where he was, staring after the van that took the only person who had ever looked at him with kindness. His chest rose and fell as he turned slowly and walked away, past the bakery, around the alley, and back behind a heat vent where the air was warm and the smell of bread helped him forget the hunger. He crouched beside a trash can, pulled his jacket tighter and tried not to cry. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, Claire lay in a sterile white room with machines beeping rhythmically beside her. Nurses moved efficiently, IVs were inserted, vitals checked, and the doctor entered with a calm voice. "You were severely dehydrated," he said. "The baby's fine. But 10 more minutes without help and it could have been very different." Claire's eyes welled with tears. "The boy, where is he?" she asked weakly. A nurse stepped in. "He didn't wait. Said he didn't have a name. Just left." Claire pressed a hand to her stomach, heart sinking. "No. I need to see him. I need to thank him." Hours passed. Her husband arrived. Matthew Whitmore, the billionaire tech investor, rushed into the room with eyes wide and face pale. "I thought I lost you," he said, voice breaking. "You didn't," she replied. "But we almost lost everything." He sat beside her, gripping her hand. "Who helped you?" She looked at him. "A boy. No shoes. Maybe 6. He didn't ask for anything. He just held my hand and saved my life." Matthew swallowed hard. "I'll find him." The next morning the search began. Their security team reviewed street footage. Questions were asked. Witnesses tracked. And by sunset they found him, curled beside a dumpster, clutching a cracked plastic cup, half asleep from exhaustion. When the red car pulled up, the boy stood not out of fear but routine. It was just another stranger. Until the man stepped out and changed everything. The boy's first instinct was to step back. The car was too shiny, the man too clean, his coat too smooth, and his shoes the kind only rich men wore when they didn't have to walk far. The man stepped out slowly, his eyes fixed not on the boy's torn jacket or bare feet, but on his face. He crouched, leveled himself to eye height, and spoke gently. "Was it you?" The boy didn't answer. His fingers tightened around the cup in his hand, cracked and empty. His lips pressed together. "The woman," the man said again, "my wife. You helped her." The boy blinked. "She was falling," he said. "I didn't want the baby to die." Matthew's throat tightened. He had been a man who dealt with pressure his entire life. Deadlines, takeovers, lawsuits. But this moment felt heavier than all of them. He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "This is for you," he said. "Enough money to buy anything you want. Clothes, food, a place to stay." But the boy didn't take it. Didn't even glance at it. He looked up, eyes tired, voice trembling. "Can I ask for something else?" Matthew paused, surprised. "Of course." The boy hesitated, then spoke. "Can I live where someone talks to me like she did?" Silence. Time itself seemed to stop. Matthew stared at him, stunned. No greed, no manipulation, no request for toys or shoes or coins. Just a wish. A wish to be seen, to be spoken to with kindness. A wish to matter. And in that moment, Matthew felt something in him fracture. This wasn't about charity. This was about a child who'd been invisible so long that a soft voice had felt like a miracle. He folded the envelope, tucked it back into his coat, and stood. "Come with me," he said quietly. "Let's go home." The boy didn't move at first. Then slowly he stepped forward. They rode in silence. When they reached the house, he stared at the staircase, the chandelier, the paintings on the wall. Claire was waiting in the living room, a blanket over her lap, belly still round, smile soft. She opened her arms without a word, and he walked into them. She whispered, "You saved us. You don't have to be alone anymore." The boy's eyes filled. He whispered back, "My name's Malik." And for the first time someone said it back. Malik sat quietly at the edge of the grand dining table, his eyes fixed on the roast chicken in front of him but his hands still resting in his lap. The table was long enough to seat 12, the plates polished, the silverware shining under the soft chandelier light. But Malik didn't touch a thing. Claire sat across from him, watching gently, offering a smile every now and then without pushing. Matthew stayed nearby, leaning against the wall, trying not to hover but still feeling completely out of place in his own home. "You don't have to wait, sweetheart," Claire said softly. "Eat when you're ready." Malik looked up, startled. "It's not poisoned?" The question didn't come with sarcasm. It came with memory, the kind shaped by mistrust and survival. Claire's heart broke, but she didn't flinch. "No, love. Just dinner." Malik slowly reached for a piece of bread, but he didn't bring it to his mouth. He sniffed it first, cautiously, before taking the smallest bite. He chewed slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should savor or fear it. After dinner, Claire showed him the guest room, where a small bed had been made just for him, with a nightlight already glowing in the corner. Malik stood in the doorway without moving. "It's okay," she said. "It's yours." He shook his head slowly. "I'll sleep on the floor. Beds are for kids that belong." Claire crouched and touched his shoulder. "You belong here." He didn't answer. That night, she laid a blanket on the floor beside the bed and let him lie there without pressure. He curled into the blanket without complaint. When she closed the door, she whispered, "Good night, Malik." From behind the door, she heard a quiet, "Good night." She returned to the living room, tears welling in her eyes. "He asked if the food was poisoned," she whispered to Matthew. "And he chose the floor." Matthew sat beside her, overwhelmed. "He doesn't trust anything. Or anyone." "He trusted me for 5 minutes on a sidewalk," Claire said. "That was more than anyone else gave him." That night, as the house fell into sleep, Malik lay on the floor, eyes open, heart cautious. But for the first time, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt safe. Not because he was used to safety, but because maybe, just maybe, this time it might last. The days that followed moved slowly, like the early days of spring thawing frozen ground. Malik remained quiet, never asking for anything, never expecting much. He rose early, cleaned up after himself, and watched everything with cautious eyes, like he expected someone to eventually tell him to leave. Claire cooked breakfast each morning, pancakes with strawberries, eggs with toast cut into stars, and always offered him a seat first. Sometimes he sat. Sometimes he stood in the hallway, half in, half out. Matthew tried to engage with stories and games, showing Malik old toys from his own childhood. Malik listened, nodded politely but rarely smiled. It wasn't rejection. It was restraint, the kind that only comes from a child who's learned that attachment can hurt more than hunger. Then came the night Claire went into labor. Her water broke suddenly, and Matthew rushed her to the hospital, calling their doctor on the way. Malik was supposed to stay with the housekeeper, but he refused. "I want to come," he said. I need to know she's okay. Matthew didn't argue. They brought him along. At the hospital, while Claire was in surgery, Malik sat in the waiting area, feet swinging off the couch, clutching the small teddy bear Claire had given him 3 nights ago. He didn't sleep. He barely blinked. When the nurse finally came out with a smile and a soft voice, she said, "Would you like to meet your baby brother?" Malik's head snapped up. "Brother?" She nodded. "He's healthy. She's safe. Come on." They led him into the room where Claire held a tiny bundle in her arms, eyes tired but glowing. "Come here," she said. Malik stepped forward slowly. "This is your brother. His name's Ezra." Malik stared at the baby, the tiny fingers, the perfect face. "He's yours too," Claire whispered. Malik didn't speak. He just reached out slowly and touched the blanket, gently as if the baby might break. Then he looked up. "He's really mine?" Claire nodded. "If you want him to be." Tears filled Malik's eyes. "I'll protect him. I promise. Like I protected you." Claire wept openly. In that sterile room filled with monitors and lights, a boy who once lived behind dumpsters made his first promise as a big brother. And everyone in the room knew it wasn't just words. It was the beginning of something permanent. The hospital room was quiet the next morning, sunlight spilling through the blinds in soft streaks. Claire was asleep with baby Ezra in her arms, the rhythmic beeping of machines lulling the space into peace. Malik sat on the chair beside the bed, eyes fixed on the baby's face, watching his tiny chest rise and fall like it held the entire world inside. He hadn't moved for hours. His little fingers were wrapped tightly around the teddy bear that now wore a hospital wristband with Ezra's name. He didn't want to let go. Matthew stepped into the room, coffee in one hand, a folder in the other. He looked tired but determined. He knelt beside Malik and whispered, "Hey champ, can we talk?" Malik turned slowly. "Is she okay?" "She's more than okay," Matthew said. "Thanks to you." Malik nodded but stayed quiet. Matthew opened the folder. Inside were legal documents, thick and crisp. Malik didn't understand them, but he knew what they meant. "This here," Matthew said, "makes you a Whitmore. Official. Legal. Forever." Malik blinked. "Adoption." "Yes," Matthew replied. "Only if you want it. But it's your choice." Malik stared down at the papers, the word adoption printed in bold at the top, his name typed neatly under child to be adopted. He didn't touch the folder. He looked up instead. "Do I have to earn it?" Matthew's voice cracked. "You already did. Not because you saved Claire, but because you showed up when no one else did. Because you're kind. Because you belong with us." Malik glanced back at Claire, then at baby Ezra. "Can I still be his brother even if I sleep on the floor?" Matthew smiled gently. "You don't have to sleep on the floor anymore. That bed in your room, that's yours. And everything in this house? You're part of it now. Forever." Malik's shoulders trembled as he wiped his eyes quickly. "No one's ever said that before." "We're saying it now," Matthew whispered. "And we'll keep saying it until you believe it." Malik leaned against him for the first time, his head resting on Matthew's shoulder. No more words were needed. In that moment, the boy who had once stood barefoot in alleyways was no longer alone. He was a son. A brother. A Whitmore.it had been 3 weeks since Ezra was born and 2 since the adoption hearing. The courtroom had been quiet and almost sacred, with its heavy wooden benches and towering ceiling, but Malik didn't remember the walls or the judge's voice. He only remembered Claire holding his hand the entire time and Matthew placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder when the judge asked, "Do you understand what this means?" Malik had nodded and said, "It means I don't got to run no more." Those words had sealed the moment into history. Now back at the house, Malik walked the halls like he was learning a new world. There were no locks keeping him out of rooms, no shouted instructions, no whispered threats. Just the clinking of bottles when Ezra cried for milk, the soft shuffle of slippers on marble, the hum of lullabies Claire sang each night. But something changed the day Claire called him into the living room. "I want to show you something," she said, smiling. Malik came in and saw it, a picture in a dark wooden frame placed right on the center wall above the fireplace. It wasn't a formal family portrait. It was a photo taken that first day on the sidewalk. Claire sitting on the ground, her gray dress smudged with dirt, hand on her belly, and his little dirty fingers clutching hers. "Why that one?" Malik asked, stunned. "Because that was the moment everything changed," she said. "You didn't just save me. You saved this whole family. That was the moment you became part of us." Malik stared at it, unsure how to respond. His heart felt heavy and light all at once. He reached up and traced the edge of the frame. Do you think people will ask why a dirty kid's in the photo? Claire knelt beside him. If they do, I'll say that's the moment we were found by the bravest boy we've ever met. Malik smiled just barely. That evening, Matthew came home early as he had every day since Ezra's birth, and helped Malik with his math homework. Malik hated fractions but loved how patient Matthew was. And when bedtime came, he chose the bed without hesitation. Claire tucked him in and he whispered, "Thank you for putting that picture up." She kissed his forehead. "Thank you for giving us that moment." And for the first time, Malik fell asleep without waiting for the sound of footsteps or the fear of being moved. Spring came in slow breezes and brighter skies, the days growing longer and warmer. Malik had begun to laugh more, real laughter that shook his shoulders and lit up the house. He still didn't ask for much, still flinched when people moved too quickly, but the shadows in his eyes had started to fade. Claire noticed it first when he began leaving his shoes at the front door without being told, as if he believed he was staying. Matthew saw it in the way Malik carefully folded Ezra's tiny onesies, humming to himself. One afternoon, Claire called him into the kitchen. A cake sat on the table, chocolate with blue frosting. Balloons lined the walls. Streamers fluttered. Malik stared at the setup with wide eyes. "Whose birthday is it?" he asked. Claire smiled. "Yours." Malik blinked. "But I don't know when I was born." "Then we picked a new date," she said. "Today. The day you came into our lives." He stepped closer slowly, unsure. "But I never had a party before." "Then we're starting with the best one," Matthew said, walking in with a gift box. "You get cake, presents, and as many wishes as you want." Malik hesitated. "Even if I don't blow the candles right?" Claire nodded. "Even then." They sat him down, sang loudly and terribly, and when the candle flickered, Malik closed his eyes and whispered a wish he never shared. Then he blew out the flame. Claire handed him a gift. Inside was a blue hoodie, soft and warm, with his name embroidered on the sleeve. Malik Whitmore. He stared at it like it was a treasure. "It's really mine?" "Forever," Matthew said. "No one else's." Malik put it on, his arms vanishing into the sleeves, his smile stretching so wide it surprised even him. That night after the party, he walked up to Claire while she rocked Ezra to sleep. "I didn't know people could give you a birthday," he whispered. "I thought you had to be born lucky." She smiled. "You were. We just found each other a little late." Malik nodded. "Then I'm going to celebrate every year. Not because it's about me, but because it's when I stopped being alone." Claire kissed his cheek. "That's the best reason there is." And for the rest of the night, Malik wore the hoodie like armor, not to protect him from the world, but to remind him that he finally had a place in it. That a few months had passed, and the house now echoed with warmth and routine. Ezra had started crawling, and Malik was the first to leap into action whenever the baby found trouble. Grabbing his tiny foot from wires, gently placing cushions near the corners, reading picture books with the seriousness of a scholar. Claire watched them together often, heart swelling. Malik had grown taller, stronger, more open, but even now he still carried one quiet fear tucked behind his new laughter. One night after dinner, as Claire washed the dishes and Matthew prepared Ezra's bottle, Malik lingered at the kitchen entrance, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands, eyes flicking between them. Claire noticed. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" Malik hesitated, then walked in slowly. "Can I ask you something?" Matthew looked up. "Anything." Malik bit his lip. "If someone from before comes looking, like a real mom or something, do I still get to stay?" The words came out like they had been rehearsed in the mirror, soaked in a fear he didn't know how to name. Claire put down the dish. Matthew stepped closer. "Malik," Claire said softly, "you are our son. No one can take that away." Malik's eyes filled with tears he hadn't planned to show. "But if someone said I was theirs, they'd be wrong," Matthew said firmly. "You're ours. Not because of papers or rules. Because of love. You saved our family. And we chose you the moment you looked back at Claire and didn't walk away." Malik looked down. "Sometimes I dream someone pulls me back. Makes me go." Claire knelt in front of him. "That dream's over. You're home. And no one is ever going to make you leave again." Malik slowly nodded, his chest loosening just a little. "Okay," he whispered. That night, as Matthew tucked him in, Malik reached out and hugged him tightly. "Thanks for saying it. I think I needed to hear it out loud." Matthew nodded. "Anytime, son." And when the door closed, Malik rolled onto his side, eyes wide in the dark, not with fear but with a fragile, growing trust that maybe this was what forever could feel like. Not a place you run from. A place you run back to. Home. 1 year later, the Whitmore home was filled with the kind of noise that spoke of life. Ezra's giggles bouncing through the hallway, Malik's sneakers thumping lightly as he raced him on all fours, Claire humming lullabies while sorting laundry, and Matthew closing his laptop every evening at 6 to help with dinner or bedtime stories. The man who once measured his worth in company shares now measured his days in math homework and crayon-drawn notes taped to his fridge. Malik had become a part of the home so seamlessly it was hard to imagine a time he wasn't there. His room was no longer the guest room. His shoes now lined the hallway next to Ezra's. His artwork, stick figures with enormous hearts and smiling suns, decorated the kitchen walls like gallery pieces. One evening after dinner, Malik sat with Claire on the porch while Matthew rocked Ezra to sleep inside. The sunset painted the sky in golds and blues. Malik leaned against her shoulder, taller now, more confident, but still holding that softness she loved. "You know what I realized?" he said quietly. Claire looked down. "What, love?" "That when I ask to live where someone talks to me like I matter. I didn't know that meant you do it every day. Even when I mess up. Even when I'm scared." Claire smiled, her eyes glassy. "That's what family does, Malik. That's what love does." Malik nodded slowly. "I think I want to help other kids like me one day. The ones nobody sees. The ones who think a warm meal or a kind word is too much to hope for." Claire reached for his hand and squeezed it gently. "Then you'll do that. And you'll change the world." Inside, Matthew watched from the window. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He knew in his heart that it wasn't a company or an invention that had changed him. It was a barefoot boy who had once run into traffic to save a stranger. That boy had taught him more about courage and humanity than any boardroom ever could. Months later, a new plaque was mounted at the community center they funded together. It read, "The Malik Foundation, because every child deserves to be seen." Malik stood beside it on dedication day, holding Ezra in one arm and Claire's hand in the other, no longer afraid, no longer unseen. He had saved them. And they had given him a name, a home, and a future. Forever.